Hey everybody, Ghost Fox. Today we're taking a look at the Bolon gaming keyboard. Now, you can see this says LBOTs, sold by a few different companies. One of the main ones is Qisan, Qisan. But anyway, this is the Bolon, and that name will definitely stick regardless of who it is that is selling this particular product. And this is an LED gaming keyboard. Here's a look at the back of the box here, and you can see it's pretty much all in Chinese, majority of the boxes, and that's kind of typical of a lot of the products that come straight over from China, which honestly I consider a benefit, because what that means is everything we have, all of our electronics, or at least for the most part, are made in China anyway. And so getting it directly from there without putting a lot of brand name labels on things actually kind of helps out a little bit for gamers who want a good quality product but don't want to have to pay for the name on it. So you do get that in your ability to kind of just get things straight from there. The downside is a lot of the labeling and sometimes even the instructions and everything are going to be in Chinese. Not really a problem though. The keyboard itself is plug and play, really easy to use, and all the functions are really easy to use. Here's a look at the keyboard itself, and you can see I have the lighting on, although depending on the color you've chosen, it might be a little hard to see in the light. You can change that with the function key here, and then the pause break button cycles through the various colors. You can see that. Obviously the red stands out and the green stands out a little bit more. I think those two colors are probably what's going to stand out the most. The rest of the colors, in darker light and less light, it'll be a lot easier to see kind of what you're doing. Another feature of this keyboard is the macro keys on the side here. You do get 6 macro keys, which are good if you play games that kind of require you to do a lot of the same thing over and over, or if you want to set up a few specific commands, additional things over here on the side. That's a nice feature for gaming. It works great in things like MMOs, not so much in like a first-person shooter or a MOBA like League of Legends or something. That's not going to be as useful. But in a lot of games, having these macro buttons can be very helpful. It can, save you some key pressing or make things a little more conveniently located at the least. It does have the media control buttons over here for music, volume, and things like that. So that makes it a little easier than having to mess around with some of your settings, especially if you're in a game. You can kind of control your media from there. Separately, you've got your little your shortcut hotkey things right here for your web browser, your email. I don't typically use those a lot, but I do know some people that do, so it's nice to at least have that option there. Otherwise, the keyboard is a very standard 104 key layout, and the buttons are nice. They give you a pretty good responsiveness, but you don't get that tactile feel like you might with something like a mechanical keyboard. It's also not loud though, so that's kind of a positive for people who might be gaming in the same room as the rest of their family, or just don't want to make a lot of noise, or someone has complained about their keyboard. This one's actually pretty quiet, and the keys are responsive. They don't take a whole lot of force to press down. The only downside to that is not only is there no audible click for you to tell that you've pressed it, but there's also no pressure click. There's not that little tactile thump on your finger when you press the key down. So if you're looking for that, if that's important to you, this keyboard does not have that feature. What it does have though is macro features, LED lighting, quiet keys. Also, it is a pretty sturdy construction, honestly. I was kind of surprised at that. Usually some of the more budget keyboards, they're kind of chintzy, kind of cheap, really lightweight. I've had some come in, under £1 for a keyboard. I think that's kind of cheap. That's too light for a keyboard. This one actually, it feels just about as heavy as my previous Logitech. I had the G series Logitech, and it feels almost as heavy as the Razer that I typically use. So this actually comes in at a decent weight. It's not going to be sliding around while you're using it. The feet on it do not have a rubber end though. They are just a plastic piece, so it's got a little bit of a skid. I do like the ones that happen to have a little rubber pad right here. That just adds extra grip in case you have your computer keyboard on a slick surface like glass or metal or something. But if you're on wood, I doubt it'll be a problem at all. So yeah, obviously don't have to use that in the first place. There are rubber pads underneath the front though. So let's take a look at that right here. You do have those rubber anti-skid pads, so there's at least a little bit of that. And though it doesn't have it on the legs, it's got that. So it offers a lot. The LED lighting, good silent keys. The one thing it doesn't have is anti-ghosting, which, if you're not familiar with that, is a feature where if you press multiple keys at once, you are ensured that those key presses will make their way to the computer. So if you are pressing down Q, W, and E all at the same time, a lot of keyboards, it's very hit and miss as to whether or not all three of those are going to be pressed, and all three are going to actually get a response to the computer. Anti-ghosting means they guarantee that those key presses will all respond. They will all make it to the PC. Now, some keyboards have just a few keys that are anti-ghosting, like your QWER if you are playing MOBAs like League of Legends, or your WASD if you're playing shooters. Some of those things, space bars, control, a lot of that will be anti-ghosting, and there are a few keyboards, and this is typically just the high-end ones, that have a full anti-ghosting set that no matter what you press, every single key will automatically go through. Obviously those are the best, but they also tend to be the most expensive. This doesn't offer anti-ghosting, so if you are playing one of those button mashy games, you might find that you could lose a few key presses if you're simultaneously hitting the keys at once. And that doesn't always happen, and it does vary from keyboard to keyboard. I didn't have a noticeable amount of that happening when I used this to play. I tested it on League of Legends. I tested it in Fallout. Didn't really have a lot of issues, but that isn't to say that it can't happen to you, because since this doesn't have anti-ghosting, I obviously can't guarantee that you're going to get the same response. So you may drop a key press here and there. Just kind of be aware of that. It's pretty typical of most keyboards unless they specifically have that feature built in. But that's a look at the Bolon. Pretty good gaming keyboard, decent entry point, and it's not very expensive. For the under $50 market, which I believe this comes in around $40, it's actually a pretty decent deal and offers quite a bit of functionality and a good amount of quality for that. One last little note, I forgot to mention, this has a nice braided cable on it, which I'm always a fan of. These offer more protection, and they also help prevent things like snagging and kinking and tangling and stuff like that. They just kind of offer a more reinforced cord. So I'm also a fan of this. Overall, the only thing this lacks that I feel is anti-ghosting, but it is a pretty good keyboard for the price. All right, well, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up or a like, and let me know what you think, and let me know if there are other things that you'd like to see. As always, if you want to hear more about tech, gaming, and gadgets, keep an eye on the blog at ghostfoxtech.com. Thanks a lot for watching.